What's up, everyone? We are back at it again. Same day, different time,
Yeah.
same place. In this video, we would like to reflect a bit about a high school math professor by the name of Joshua Katz, who teaches in Florida. Um, he has a video, a TED Talk on YouTube called Toxic Culture of Education.
Yeah.
And there's many things in that video that really stood out to me. I actually played that video back at point 0.2 speed and I transcribed every single word he said. And not only did I do that, I also wrote a reflection post about that. That was like a 2 hour long process. But anyway, not to not to do a too long of an intro, but some of the things that stood out in that video was part of the reason why in college I've noticed why people don't help me or help students, I should say, help students understand how to learn or why they're learning what they're learning is that number one, that process is difficult. It requires time. It requires a lot of resources. And another part is he had mentioned kind of beautifully, it was kind of his punchline, so I'm just sabotaging it right now, but that there simply is no money in long-term investing in terms of students, right? He had said that the educational industry is the only industry, might I add, it's a $750 billion industry that we're creating products, and in this case, products are students with very little consideration of what their ability to apply or what their ability to function in the market will be. And that really just kind of was like, yeah, because a lot of it is still up on the students. Like even on students who do get through college, even on there's some PhD students who actually don't end up doing much with their lives, and a lot goes into that. And I'm not putting all of it on the college educational system, no doubt, but part of the reason we're doing this proposal is to kind of uncover a little bit of the how do we learn, why we're here, why are we doing this, because most of us know like we're doing it to have more opportunities, we're doing it to have a earn more salary, but I think that's not powerful enough to inspire young students to really learn, right? Because that's kind of like many young students are still dependent on their parents, right? So at the end of the day, even if they don't make it through college, they're still going to be okay, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to hand the mic over because that was not the best reflection, but I think Steve has learned a lot from that video too. So maybe we can have Steve share a little bit.
Let's see. I don't remember the video as clearly as. Oh, did I just touch a button? Oh. Anyways, I don't remember the video as clearly as you, but the things that really struck a chord with me was just how there's. Let's see. There's so many different capabilities within students, and the way that we almost identify students just by the metrics of their test grades, especially at a young age, and it builds like an identity of who's a C student, who's an F student, and who's an A student. When really there's like these gaps in people's learning that they never readdress, and it's kind of just like a snowballing problem. But that doesn't really define someone as an F student or a C student. And yeah, I mean, it's that's one of the biggest barriers to education because I think a lot of people who struggle early on like can really benefit from going to community college or just continuing their education in general, but it does become very discouraging when your whole life you're being told that you're a C student. And I mean there can also be problems. I mean, under the hood, I mean, if you look at it, there could be problems at home, problems with money, and just anything else that could be affecting the student. But instead, and I find it too often that the student is blamed when there are external problems that are causing the student. And if they had the same opportunities as other students, they might not be doing as poorly.
Nicely said. I completely blanked on that entire aspect of his presentation, which was one of the ways we measure student success and student potential is off high stakes exams. And I think we've been in the system long enough to realize why there are high stakes exams and why that's in the structure. And we also recognize that that's probably not going to change anytime soon. But one of the beauties of Conquering College and the work that needs to be done is it will really kind of uncover how we can turn these classes and how we can turn these quarters and semesters into our own learning, and not only our own learning, but how can we generate some knowledge that will be useful for our future. And that's a very different perspective than how can I just do enough on my exams and do enough on my homework to pass, or how can I do enough on satisfying the core syllabus to get an A, right? Uh, I know I'm currently a tutor and I have many A students, but when I have conversations with them sometimes, um, their end all be all is getting an A, and that's cool that they got that focus because I praise them for that, and I know getting an A takes time and takes work, but I don't believe that is the most healthy way to pursue or not pursue to live out an education in this system. So, yeah, would you like to say a little bit more while we're on this topic?
Yeah. I mean, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and they telling me like, "Are you an A student?" Because they saw my study skills, and they were like, "Wow, like you must be an A student." And I was like, "Well, like I had to start off somewhere. Like I had to get to this point." And they're like, "Oh yeah, so you must be all about getting A's." And I was like, like I would like to think that I am, but actually no, because that's it's a really painful way to think because when you don't get the A, man, you just set yourself up for so much disappointment. So I kind of really like to just enjoy that studying and just like enjoy the journey rather than just the process, which is like an exam. Like I used to be really stressed during exams, and then now I can just like, hey, this is just 2 hours of my life. I've lived 2 hours before. Like I'm gonna get past this, all right. But like so many people's life revolve around just those 2 hours, but there's so much more to our lives than that. And especially when you're studying, when you're dedicating, what like a quarter is like what 3 months, and you're only gonna focus on an exam which is 2 hours, a final which is 2 hours, another exam that's 2 hours. Like you're really focusing your whole narrative of basically that course on 6 hours when really you've put in probably over 100, and you should really cherish that. So, and when I told the student this, they're like, wow, that's a really different narrative. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I'm really glad to have this narrative. But it's taken a while because whenever I used to fail exam, I was just like, my life is over. I mean, I'm gonna get an F. I'm gonna drop out of school and never find a job. I'm gonna be homeless and I'm gonna just disappear.
Yeah.
But
Kind of be stuck, right?
yeah,
Kind of be stuck with what did he call it? I think in the video he was calling it like the lower level, lower skilled jobs,
hmm,
right? And there's, to be honest with you, I respect some of my blue collar colleagues a lot more than some of the billionaires on this world, right? Because to some extent they're doing good work and they're doing good service, you
yeah.
know. Um,
I mean, I think yeah, like what you're saying is like totally true because in education, you shouldn't limit your education to just school.
yeah,
Like there's so much to be educated about.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. Yeah, for me, I've always wanted to be a business person, whatever that means. But I think part of that definition is generating your own knowledge. I've recognized that as we both want to become educators, right? We get some really cool insights on what we would like to change in the system and how we can be better teachers. Um, and that's really cool because every single time we go into a class, we see like what's good, what's not good, and we can kind of improve upon that. And without having that whole, without being like pigeonholed to saying I gotta get an A, I gotta get that's all I'm trying to get. There was no way I would even have looked at a class in that light, right? And it's okay. There are like good students who go to good schools that have got good lives and good careers. That's okay. But I think this grant is targeted to those students who don't,
Yeah.
who don't succeed in school, who don't achieve their academic goals, who don't know why they're here, besides the fact that they should just be here because I got to get a college education. It's 2019. But that's not really a strong enough message for young students to stay motivated to realize that, right? At least it wasn't enough. That wasn't nearly strong enough for me. Um, would you like any final thoughts, Steve?
Um, no, I think I've said enough.
All right, cool. Till next time.